do have more changes. Eagles, Commanders going away. I'm going to put the Giants at third and the Cowboys at fourth. I thought the Giants actually got impact guys in the draft. I thought Scattaboo, the running back, will absolutely make an impact, and Abdul Carter, hate that he's asking for Lawrence Taylor's jersey, but he's going to be an impact guy. They've already got a good D-line. It'll be even better. Cowboys hiring Brian Schottenheimer. Big mistake, very Dak reliant. I go Cowboys in the cellar.
Okay, so this is interesting. I mean, I'm looking at this more from the Commanders-Eagles perspective and kind of, can the Commanders win the division? And let's look at his, his full standings. So he's got the Commanders at 5. So that's interesting because if that's the case, then, it puts them on an interesting playoff trajectory. And, you would be then, you'd be in a tough situation. And this is where I'm still trying to figure out Colin's logic. Because you would be playing the Rams. And Colin thinks that the Rams are all in and can win a Super Bowl, these next couple of years. So then it's like, well, playing the Commanders wild card round, like that's got to be a tough one. And then if you find yourself in a situation where there's, you just really need one upset, then you kind of find yourself in a situation where you'd be facing the Eagles, as long as the Eagles win, obviously, in the NFC Championship game again on the road. Like, that would be, obviously, you have to win multiple games, but, like, that, you would be facing the team, technically, in the conference championship game. You wouldn't find yourself in a situation where now you have to play maybe the Eagles divisional round, wild card. Obviously if you're playing them in the wild card, then that means then they're not the number 1 seed. So kind of interesting. I think that benefited both the Eagles and the Commanders last year. When I made videos going into the playoffs last year, I was like, this seeding actually works. Both of these teams don't want to see each other until the NFC Championship game, and that's exactly how it ended up unfolding. Obviously this is a completely different year. I think, to me, and I think I said this like weeks ago, but it bears repeating, and we're so close to actually seeing when the schedule is actually released. I know we know the teams, but I really need to see the order. I really need to see, do the Eagles and the Commanders have bootleg games at the end of the season, where they're playing like the Giants or the Cowboys final game of the season. Dak's been shut down. It's Jameis Winston right there, or Jackson Dart's first game, final game of the season. I mean, what is the actual situation here? Are these easy wins? When do the Eagles and the Commanders play? Are they playing week 1 revenge rematch? That's a different game. Week 1 is a wildly different game compared to week 8. Week 1, I would probably give the Commanders a leg up because they have the revenge factor. They want to so badly beat the Eagles. The Eagles are still going to have a little bit of a high, and they have less to prove. The Commanders want to set the tone to be like, this is a new year, new season. You won the Super Bowl. Congrats. We tip our hat to you, but this is different. So there's just going to be a different level of intensity. And the Eagles are still going to bring it, obviously. But they're going to be working with a new coordinator. Like, I just feel as though that there's more potential for, a little bit of a somewhat rockier start where, a week 1 matchup would be an advantage. Week 5, week 6, week 7, and then it's really just kind of like, nope, it's kind of like which team is in rhythm, which team is healthiest right now. Is anyone banged up? Is Jaden banged up? Is Jalen banged up? Is AJ playing? Is, how's Debo fitting in right now? So I really want to see the order of the schedule. Do the Eagles play the Lions and then the Commanders? Are they going to have a game where they're beating up against the Lions and now they're all beat up, and then on short rest they have a Thursday night game against the Commanders? I think that stuff is really, really going to matter for this division. And it just would not shock me if this division comes down to how it came down to with the Lions and the Vikings last year. To be fair, I think that's going to happen I think that could happen in a couple of the divisions this year. But I think the Eagles and the Commanders are definitely one of the divisions and one of the two teams where I feel like it really can be like final game of the season, you win, you're the 1 seed, you lose, you're the 5 seed. But what made it so perfect for the Lions and the Vikings was that it truly did come down to the final season, and the NFL loved that. That was a standalone game, extra playoff game essentially. Money was flowing, everybody was watching it. I mean, like it was a playoff game, even though it obviously wasn't. And so it was box office, and everybody talked about it. All the networks, and it was huge, and it had obviously like massive implications and repercussions. You win, you're the 1 seed, and a bye. You lose, you're the 5 seed, and now you got to go on the road. So like that is a big deal. And I just wonder if the NFL is going to try to figure out how that's going to be. And so it also wouldn't surprise me if the Eagles and the Commanders play each other final game of the season. And does that game even matter? Do either the Commanders or the Eagles, are they already kind of locked in their seating? And now we have a game where both Jalen and Jaden aren't playing each other, right? It's backup quarterback versus backup quarterback. Like that is like, you got to figure out, how is the NFL going to try to figure this out? What are they predicting? So, and I think that is going to just have a legitimate influence on this division. I think it's totally fair to put the Eagles as the one, to win the division, to be the one that you're going to predict is going to win the division. I think, even if you're a Commanders fan, you can believe that the Commanders are going to be better, that they can win and they can win the division. But I don't think you could see that as like an insult that the Eagles are favored to win the division or predicted to win the division. They just won the Super Bowl, so it's like it's going to make sense. Yeah, I mean, I really do think that the Commanders are still right there. To me, and I've said this so many times, like this season is going to unfold based on the defense. Does this defense take a step forward? Does this defense actually get out there and win more games for this offense? To me, it is not dependent on, is Jaden Daniels a superhero? Can Jaden Daniels take the big step forward? Can Jaden Daniels prove to be the MVP? That's all well and great. You guys know that I'm a massive fan and believer of Jaden Daniels. But to me, the smoothness of this season, are they in the driver's seat to win the division? Are they competing for the first, for the 1 or 2 seed? That is going to be defense driven from my viewpoint. Can they, when they play the Eagles, do they make it difficult for Jalen Hurts? Do they shut down Saquon Barkley, right? Do they keep the score down to, 20, a low 20s, maybe even teens game? Do they make it an ugly game where now it's like, 18-16, like we've seen a bunch of random scores like that, and that'll be defensive driven. It's how the Eagles were able to come away and beat the Ravens, and why the Commanders came away from that game and lost to the Ravens. And so that's what I'm looking for from this Commanders team more than anything. And that's why you hired Dan Quinn. So it's obviously pretty unpredictable right now, but it is interesting to see a team like the Commanders, and this is just the problem with the divisions, to look at the Commanders and be like, oh, they're the 5 seed, right? They're beneath the Lions, the Bucks, and the Rams, but that's obviously what happens when you don't win the division. And it's just the stakes for this division. Obviously you always want to win your division, but it feels like it's really the difference between being the home team in the NFC Championship game and being on the road. To be fair, I don't think it matters as much for the Eagles and the Commanders as long as they're playing each other, because it's right around the corner. They're going to probably sleep in their own beds. They're obviously very familiar with there and all that. Like it's a little bit different if you're like going down to Tampa, you're going to Detroit, you're flying cross country to LA, you're in Seattle, you're in Chicago. Like I just think between the Eagles and the Commanders, the weather's going to be identical. It's going to be cold, a little windy, maybe some snow, maybe not. Like it's just there's no drastic difference in that. You're not a warm weather team who now has to go on the road, right? The Bucks having to go to Washington or Philly is a legitimate disadvantage for them, and so I don't think it matters as much for those two teams when they play each other. But if you're not playing each other, well, then I think it's a major advantage to host the NFC Championship game against the Detroit Lions, against the Los Angeles Rams. And those are the teams that you're going to be looking to be competing if it's not the Eagles. So it has pretty big repercussions here. And, Probably, as much as I think like the Lions, the NFC North is a tough division and it's going to be a dogfight in a lot of ways. I could see the Eagles and the Commanders, like who's going to win that division. Even if we want to say that division is a little bit easier because you have the Giants and the Cowboys in it. Between the two teams to win it, you're talking about the two NFC Championship game teams, right? So like it just feels like it can be a tighter race, because if the level of competition is slightly looser, you're still talking about two of the highest performing teams, right? It was literally the NFC Championship game teams. So that's just going to make it a tight race. And, again, how's it actually really going to unfold? I want to see the schedule, the actual order of the schedule. And, how many primetime games do they have? Are the Eagles and the Commanders playing primetime week 1 Sunday night football? Like that easily could be. Or do they have a game on Wednesday, or whatever the heck they did last season where they had the game on like Thursday and then I think Friday or something? One was in Brazil, one was in Kansas City. Like, I think that will matter. I really do. Week 1 on the road in primetime game, a 9 o'clock Friday night game or something, like, it's going to be weird. It was weird for the Eagles to play the Packers in Brazil week 1. And obviously you're not necessarily having that with each other, but I'm conflicted on what's going to be week 1. Is it going to be Eagles Commanders or Eagles Lions or Eagles Chiefs? Probably not Eagles Chiefs, but if history repeats itself, like, I don't know. It wouldn't shock me if we see Eagles Commanders. So that would be, from my viewpoint, at least right now, a benefit for the Commanders. So we got like a week or two until we finally see the schedule release. And so I'll have more updated thoughts after that. But I think the Commanders are in a great spot. But it does look weird just to be like, technically they're the 5th best team in the division, again, according to Colin, but like, doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel that way. If you said Commanders Lions, who you got? Commanders. Commanders Bucks, who you got? Commanders. Commanders Rams, who you got? Commanders. Commanders Bears, Commanders. The one thing for me is Commanders Eagles. And that's, they're both my babies. I'm excited to watch, my kids grow up. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Commanders? Do you think that they can win the division, will win the division? And how do you feel about them being the best of the rest, the 5 seed within the wild card? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.